Awesome. Thank you all for joining our Cosmo Campfire. Today, we'll be looking at our resource forecasting information, and that the resource forecasting tools within Mission Control. As we get started here, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter your questions in our question Q&A, and we'll make sure to answer those at the end. I know there will be questions throughout, but since there's quite a few um, objectives to cover today, then we'll make sure to answer those towards the end and make time for that. Awesome. Thank you for joining our Cosmo Campfire as we focus on particular features within Mission Control. We do deep dives. We'll be looking at the resource forecasting tools. Today, myself, I am Janaya. I'm a customer service representative at Aprika Business Solutions, based in the Central Standard Time Zone in the US, and I've been working with Aprika for 2.5 years. Been in Salesforce ecosystem for 3 to 3.5 years now as well. As we look at today's agenda, we'll be looking at the resource forecasting management tools. And so there'll be quite a few. We'll be going through our objectives, a resource forecasting data model to better understand how that maps out and how that looks within Mission Control. And then we'll also be looking at definitions so you have it clearly written out. And then we'll be demoing those within the resource planner, the overview and planner tabs within the resource planner, the manage forecast, and the manage distribution tools as well. As we look at our objectives today, we'll be understanding specifically the overview and the planner tabs as I stated. We'll be taking a look at what exactly is the difference between the role forecasts and actions, understanding manage forecast and manage distribution tools. We'll be looking at how do we create manage role forecasts from an opportunity, how do we create role forecasts from a project, and we'll be converting those role forecasts as actions on the project as well. Awesome. As we get started on resource forecasting, um, this obviously you start off with particular roles or individuals in your org who are on staff employees, maybe they're subcontractors, or maybe they're consultants or specific placeholder roles. So each apologize for that. Each role or resource in your org has its predetermined availability, and we will review how that gets played out in the next two slides as well. So as we look at role availability, you're able to determine that within the roles hour day fields or the roles hours per week field. So if you have your hours per week field on the role record set as 40 hours a week, they're set to work 40 hours a week, then that will be their capacity. You'll also be able to determine their capacity by looking at another object called the role availability. So this is just another mission control object that's related to the role on their role related list, and you can create a specific determined amount of time where you're going to say that their availability is going to change. So it could be that they're out for a month for bereavement. It could be that um, they move from part-time to full-time, whatever that looks like, or vice versa. Then that's how they'll get added. As we take a look at the roles demand, we can see that this comes from the projects and also the opportunity, the amount of things that are taking up their role, the individual's time. We can take a look at projects as the committed work, the things that we've sold and need to deliver upon, whereas opportunities hold the forecasted work, what we think we will sell and what will eventually need to be delivered. Role forecasting is considered on this role forecast is an object that can be created on both the opportunity and the project. So this is going to hold Your soft booking is going to relate to both the project opportunity, and you'll see how this gets generated on the project and the opportunity by using the managed forecast system as well. When you are looking at your projects, obviously the project is going to have your seven layered structure within your project milestone, action, and contributors. And you're also able to take a look at um, what that looks like. Let's see. So as the main structures obviously within the project are project milestone, action, and contributor. And as you continue to log time, as you use time within Mission Control, you're able to use assign work to take the roles, use the roles capacity by assigning them work through the action. You're able to forecast some potential work that's coming in through role forecast, and you're able to look at what time have they already taken off this week, or maybe they're taking off just a half day or a part day for the month of September or whatnot. Role allocations are important as you'll be able to determine this is going to be the data that's going to be generated, pull in to generate that capacity that's related to the role record. So when you create uh, um, when you've enabled role allocation records and the control pad, this is going to hold the centralized view of all committed and uncommitted work assigned to your roles. So the role allocations will draw on and it will be generated from those three objects. So you see the holidays, the actions, and the role forecast to consolidate all the demand requests for your resources. As users log time, they can report all actual work that gets generated, and this what gets generated and completed, and which will also generate role actuals in this case. So anytime you log time to the action, the role actual will be generated to show out of the hours scheduled and projected using, role allocations. Then you'll see how much of that has been completed through the role actuals. As you kind of slightly determined or reviewed already, we have role allocations which contain the daily hours that a role will contribute to an action, and this gets done identified as a three from the three objects as we reviewed already. So there's a field called allocation type on the role allocation itself. So if you look at the individual role allocation records and you pull them up, you'll see that it's either related to the role forecast, it's related to the action, or the holiday. So if you have a user who's working Monday through Friday, you'll see role allocation records generated for them for each day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If it's 20 hours, then it'll be delivered 20 hours divided by those 5 days. So this user is set to work 5 days, 4 hours each day in order to meet those 20 hours scheduled on the action. Role actuals contain the completed hours from time logs and from holidays. And role forecasts contain the role's booking information defined by the skill, start date, end date, billable and non-billable hours, and associated billable and cost rates. As we take a look at what determines a role's capacity, there's a few features that will take play as we've this is outlined in our knowledge base article on roles capacity. But if you have the disabled weekend and non-working days rescheduling setting on the project automation tile within the control pad set as true, then the system will assume that the role is available to work all 7 days out of a week. So they're technically working every day 24/7. Each day they're set to work at least 7 days out of the week, right? However, if you've already identified certain things such as the role availability record, which we've discussed already, and as you see towards the bottom, really helps provides customers the ability to record the availability information for your particular roles for a specific amount of time. So you can have multiple role availability records, but there'll be specific fields that you want to fill out to make sure there's a start and end date for each role availability record. However, if you don't have those, then the second and third priorities are going to draw from the role record itself. So you're going to see if you have a role for yourself set as 40 hours a week on the hours per week, you'll see that there's also day fields Monday through Friday. You can set them to work. Maybe they're only working Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or they're set to work Monday through Friday. So you want to make sure to fill those fields out along with the hours per week. The fourth and fifth priorities will be kind of like a default if there isn't any information above. It is going to default to 8 hours per day, and it'll be multiplied by the org's business, your Salesforce org business hours and working days that you've already determined on your company org information um, for business hours org. And so if you have a specific amount of time each day that you want your users to be that it will determine the capacity. This will be, you can use the default hours per day field on the custom setting tile on the control pad. So if you know that your users are not necessarily 8 full hours, but you know that they're like 6.5 or 7 hours a day, then you could put that 7 as a default instead of the 8 that will come from machine controls logic. So that can be controlled on the control pad as well. As we take a look at what's the difference between role forecasts and actions, uh, you can think of the role forecast object as possible or projected work in the future, while actions are actual work, actual planned or committed work. So both role forecasts and actions are going to generate RAs or what we know as role allocations. For example, if you have this scenario, like John is set to work on this particular action for a project that's 20 hours scheduled for him. John will be projected to work Monday through Friday on September this week, Monday for 4 hours each day. If we take a look at how that gets split up out of the box, if that's out of the role allocation are generated on the control pad, it's going to create those role allocations for him for each day from the action start date and end date. Looking at those working days, and it'll divide those hours scheduled evenly across the 5 working days. So you'll see 4 hours each day. And so each day you'll see role allocation 1, role allocation 2, role allocation 3, 4, and 5 for this particular committed work on the action and projects that he's working on. On the other hand, if you have a projected work incoming for the same project and you want to project how much revenue is going to be coming in, then you can schedule to see who has availability and looking at the particular hours. And let's say that John has a skill set for this work that's coming in. You know you have 40 hours available to you for this work coming in, and you can divide those 40 hours. And if you were to project and schedule that role forecast record for John, that role forecast record is going to divide those 40 hours for the work per the working days available that you've determined. And let's say it needs to be done by the end of the week, then it's going to divide those by 5 days, which gives us a total of 8 hours each day. And then it's going to give you that total that you have. As you look at the resource planner is great because then you can see the actions, the action and the role forecast, role allocations to see how much capacity does he have, how many hours have been used already, and does he have the time to complete the work that has been assigned to him already and the incoming work. And so we know that John is working 40 hours in this week, 40 hours a week. So we know that he is over capacity, obviously. Where he has already committed to 20 hours, so he has 20 hours already, and you're assigning him another 40 hours this week. So as we take a look at this, you're able to see as a resource planner that you can split the role forecast information in half and assign him 20 hours of the 40 total bucket of 40 hours, and you can reassign the remaining 20 hours to someone else who has capacity as well. So you can see this get displayed in the specific tools that we'll be looking at in just a moment on the Manage Forecast and the Manage Distribution tools. Awesome. We'll take a look at what this looks like in our resource planner and our tools within Mission Control and how we generate role forecasts as well. Awesome. We should be on our um, control pad on our Mission Control Council page. So as you take a look at Mission Control, um, there's a few ways on how to get to the resource planner. You can get to the resource planner yourself by going to the management pad and selecting on the resource planner tile, view planner. You can type in resource planner at the top for the app launcher and just type in resource planner. You have the classic and lightning versions depending on your custom permission or depending on the permission sets available to you. Or you can go to the navigation bar and nav bar and scroll down to resource planner. In this case, we will take a look at what this looks like on the resource planner to give you a better understanding of how that data gets pulled in. So the resource planner provides insight into the full capacity of all your roles within the business. It shows a summary of hours booked against roles against across role forecasts, across actions and holidays. And you're also able to see events as well. So you have that holiday, you have your billable and non-billable work, and then you have your events. As we take a look at that planner tab. Looking at the four tabs available to us, we have these two tabs called assignment and resource request. And these two have been recently added in our 1.75 major release, and we've talked about those in our past Cosmo Campfires, but today we'll be looking at specifically the overview and the planner tabs. The overview provides a snapshot summary of all your overall capacity in your org. Whether you're looking at individual roles or master teams, then you're able to determine your org's overall capacity for your users. The planner, on the other hand, breaks down the capacity and availability across days, weeks, and months on the role allocation per role. And this can also be filtered down to individual roles or particular teams if you use the filter icon. The assignment manager provides resource managers the ability to view, create, edit, and manage your role forecasts for a group of roles or for per particular project for a specified time. The resource for request tab is going to give resource managers the ability to view resource requests, search for potential resources, and assign them to a project. When you take a look at the resource overview in this case, we'll be looking at the settings and how this gets determined. As we take a look at our display settings at the top here, you're able to see the available options available to us, your start and end dates, what type of group you're going to group this by, and you're able to select the moment you've predetermined that information, you can update to go and the information will update itself. Looking at these display settings, as we take a look at the display of what information is exactly that you're trying to pull in, there's four settings called forecast actions and both forecast wins or action wins. And when you take a look at the forecast, this is only going to show role allocation records that relate to the role forecast records. So the allocation type that relates to role forecast, then it's going to only pull in that information. Whereas the actions, it's only going to pull in role allocations related to the actions that has been committed and assigned to users, right? Um, on the other hand, both forecast wins is going to pull in actions and role forecast, role allocation information. But if you're looking at project information specifically, and the project has both role forecasts and action records, the role allocations related to the role forecast will be included. Whereas on the other hand, if you're looking at forecast wins, both forecast and role allocations will be included, but if you're looking on particular projects, it's only going to show the role allocations related to actions that have that are on the project itself only. So it kind of depends on what type of view you want to take a look at, then you can pull in that information. It's going to update that information accordingly. You can add in your edit and your you can edit your start and end dates if you so let's say it's going to default to like a quarterly view, but if you want to just take a look at the month of September, then you can go ahead and do that as well. Just scroll to September's dates and then enter those values in. You can look at all your, this will pull in automatically all your roles, mission control roles in your org. As you can see, I have some placeholder roles here. Maybe you don't want to see those placeholder roles. These are just placeholders. If I know I don't want to have a project, but I don't know who to assign it to, you can assign it to these placeholder roles just to hold that information for you. And you can reassign all those later using the reassignment wizard to your actual roles. Or maybe you want to take a look at what the specific teams, and you can scroll down on what teams that's going to hold. So maybe you have a placeholder team. It's gonna show you what those teams look like and that have been assigned to each of your roles. These are master teams particularly. So as you take a look at that, we're going to click go. There is the filter and setting icon, and I'll review that as well. Maybe you don't want to see all your placeholder roles and you just want to see all active roles only. You can create a filter to show that information, that pull that particular information in. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure you create that button first, and you're just gonna say all active roles. Type in however you want to name that. You want to make sure to create that first so that that gets saved. You don't have any filters yet, so you want to make sure to also add in the filters. I know that all my active roles are on a particular team that I've already depicted on their role record, which is called the all staff team. So if you have that particular team, I'm going to make this filter available to all my teams and all users as well. So actually, I'm just going to make it available to all users. I'm going to save that, and you can also scroll down to see who on that team is going to who you want to be filter this information down to. You have your placeholder team, and I don't want to include them, so I'm going to include only all my staff in this case. And then before you do filter, you want to make sure to save that as well. You want to make sure to save that so that it gets saved for the future, and then you can click filter. So you'll see that the filter icon turn green automatically. And so that's going to show you that the filter has been enabled, and you see that the placeholder roles are not showing up at the moment. So this is just all current active roles in your org. The moment you exit out of that, then you'll see that it's going to reset to all roles. And so you want to make sure if that's the setting that you're looking at, that gets filtered out. This is pre-set and saved. And so if you go elsewhere and you come back to the Resource Planner tab, then this should still remain green as long as that filter obviously is updated and saved to the settings that you requested. As we take a look at the display settings here, you're able to see the capacity chart and the capacity table. When you look at the capacity chart on the left-hand side, you're able to see its particular information, and you're able to exit out on the information that you only want to see. If you look at only actions and you update that, you're not going to see rural forecast in gray as the other um, display setting shows. So you're able to see your capacity. You're able to see it's right under 1,000 because your active roles have about 1,000 hours of capacity for this month period that you've selected. You're able to see the blue, which is the actions that have been actually assigned to your roles for this month. And so those actions are going to be, the assigned work is going to come from the total hours column. That's right under 600. So you'll see the blue is right under 600. Maybe you don't want to see that, and you're gonna cross that out by um, clicking on those words on the words at the top of the chart. And you can see the forecasting as well, and in the gray right here. So this is coming from role forecast records. You're also able to see your holidays that are available to your roles that they've taken off as well. So you can add those by clicking on them and enabling and disabling those. On the right-hand side, you're able to see the capacity. So you have your chatter icon, so that opens up the feed to chatter something to your individual roles. You're able to click on your roles. So in this case, if you click on Janaya, you see that her role record is set to 80 hours a week. I'm sorry, I meant 40 hours per week. And you're able to see Monday through Friday as well the days that I've depicted how many hours she's working per day. I've added billable and hour cost hourly rates for her, and you'll see her billable target as well, as set to 80%. So when you are looking at that information, you'll see that if you take a look at the month view, in which we have determined here, there's 22 working days in the month of September, and so due to that, you're going to see the capacity get depicted from the role field for the day and rates, right? So you're going to see 8 hours times by those 22 working days in September. It's going to give you 176 for your roles. So you might have other folks like Ryan who only works part-time. So his capacity is total of 88 hours that month, right? If you're taking a look at this week, let's say, and you're able to see the 40 hours as we for the capacity as well. So just depending on what type of setting and that you've depicted, then it's going to show pull up the information. So Ryan is set to work 20 hours a week while everyone else is set to work 40. You see that he also has his total hours assigned from work, meaning from actual projects and in this case in role forecasts in particular, it's going to look at the action wins. Then you can see whether he's over capacity or under. Right now, I have my capacity set to anything over 100 is going to be red using my gear settings icon on the resource planner. And so you're able to include or exclude events. Right now, I've included them. So we see that row called events. I've also set my operator for the green breakpoint capacity. Anything less than 90, that's just what I want to see. Then I want to see as green, they have capacity, they're fine. Whereas anything that's over 100, then they're over capacity for that week or that month, whatever view you want to see it to. Right now, I set my settings for whole numbers, but let's say you want to see specific decimal numbers, then you could do that as well. You also have your planner, so that's going to refer to the planner tab, your planner column settings, and we'll take a look at that when we in just a second. So it's going to update that now. You see that it's decimals for those two decimals for the instead of whole numbers. You see, they're able to see the capacity. The capacity percentage is obviously just going to be the total hours divided by the capacity. They are over, in this case, Janaya, for myself, you'll see that she's over capacity for this week. You see that Jimin has capacity because he's only used half of the available hours available to him, and so on and so forth. So Lexi is right above capacity, so she's just fine there. Pradnya is not assigned any work this week, and so on and so forth. When you go ahead and click on the planner tab, it's slightly the information gets slightly is similar, especially the filter settings and display settings at the top here. You see you can group this information by maybe you want to group it by project and opportunities, and you want to just see like the opportunities and the projects that are available to you, and maybe you want to see specific roles. Then you can go and group this information by that as well. You still have your filter setting icon, so I don't have my placeholder roles showing up at the moment. And then out of the box, you'll see these three columns from the capacity tables below. You have the status and probability. This is going to refer to your opportunity and your project statuses and things like that. You have your column for capacity so as we explained earlier, where the capacity is coming from the roles hours per week and day fields is going to create that capacity value for you. And then your total hours is going to show how much work has been assigned using the role display settings, whether it's forecast and action role allocation records or whether it's just specific action records. So you'll see that those information go down just a bit if you're looking at specific assigned work that's been assigned to your roles. You look at the views of whether you want to see we're looking at the hourly view right now. So out of their, for 40 hours a week, they have 30, in this case, Janai has 36 hours assigned to her. If you're looking at billable values, you can also take a look at those currency values of how much revenue these actions are generating, or how much the cost value as well. You have your collapse and expand icons, and you have your days that you want to look at. So I've set it to 7 days a week to look at. You can set it to weeks, months. Maybe you want to look at the month view of 4 weeks, then you can go ahead and update that. And you're looking at the 4 weeks starting the 21st of this week. If you want to go forward and backwards and you want to look at the first month of September, you can go ahead and do that as well by clicking on the calendar icon and clicking on the actual date. So when you've gone ahead and actually clicked on the first, it's going to pull that week view as you've depicted, and you're able to move forward and backwards with the icon. So it's going to move forward a week, obviously. It's going to move back a week depending on what view you've kind of set it to. So if you have days, it's going to move forward 1 day and back 1 day. You have your filter icon still enabled, and you have your CSV file where you can download this information from the resource planner, and it's going to show you the fields and the roles and the table information that you have on this capacity table here. As we've kind of shown already on our settings, when you scroll down to the planner column settings, you're able to hide these standard columns, and maybe you don't want to see the status and probability column. Maybe you don't want to see any of them. You can just click it to hide it all. You can also depict custom fields. And so on the role field, let's say I want to see what their um, function is. What type of function do they have on their role record? Like, are they project manager? Are they consultants? And maybe on the project, I want to see what account is this being tied to? The opportunity, let's just say I want to look at um, let's say I want to take a look at what opportunity type. And so when you go ahead and click those, you're able to see the role. It's going to say R, P, and O. It's going to refer to what object this is referring to. So it's going to be role, obviously, project, P for project, and O for opportunity. And so you're able to see those come across, especially when you expand. And you expand that, you'll see that this is on your projects. It's going to pull up that account. So this is tied to the Preca account, and all your opportunities. We don't have it pulled up right here, but it's going to show the opportunity type if you go onto your opportunities and you have an opportunity type on that for those fields. So right now, we're just going to collapse everything so you see everything. So we have our custom fields, we have our capacity, total hours, our roles obviously on the left, those summary fields at the bottom, the capacity when you've taken the amount and divided by the total capacity available to them, and their breakpoint from coloration. So the amber is going to show you just it's approaching, right? It's approaching the red, right? You're not at 100% yet, but it's not 90 and it's not 100, so it's going to be in between that amber color. It's going to break those out per weeks, and so you'll see those coloration for each of your roles as well. So this is going to show you the resource planner, and we're going to show you how that role forecast data and role allocation data get generated through this. As we pull up, we're going to take a look at our managed forecast. When we take a look at our managed forecast, there's a few ways on how to access to get to this button. You can access managed forecast from the opportunity page or from the project page itself. So in this case, if we are looking at our projects, and we're going to take a look at our silver SLA project, you're able to view the manage forecast and distribution lightning buttons on the project page. If you don't see these buttons available to you, then you want to make sure your admin adds these buttons onto the project page layout. So you can create those managed forecasts or those role forecast records on the project. You can create them on the related list and create them manually one by one here. You can create them, manage forecasts, which we'll show in a second here. And you can also create them on the resource planner when you are using assignment manager and whatnot. When you're on the opportunity, how we create it on the opportunity, you can create it manually like this by creating new. If you have it on the opportunity related list, you can create it using the manage forecast button here as well. So as we take a look at our opportunities, we don't have any projects generated just yet, but we know that we already have one forecast record for Jimin. He's a skill set of developer, and he's starting his work of September as well. So when you click on the manage forecast, you're able to see the forecasting records that are tied to this particular opportunity already. As you pull that up, it's going to say at the top opportunity related to that specific opportunity called Grand Hotels. And you will see Jimin as role forecast record already populated. When we have our managed forecast, you will see that a few things. You'll see the forecast that it pertains to. If you're on the project page, it's going to say project and the project name. You have your filter settings at the top. You have your two tabs for forecasts and allocations to take a look at how many forecasts do we have, or what particular forecast you want to filter down to. You can do so from here, or you have your allocation tab, and we'll take a look at that as well. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and add Janaya. On the left-hand side, you can add your forecast records by inputting them on the gray box over here. So for Janaya, I want, let's say, we know that she has capacity. I want to add Lexi to see potential revenue, potential work that's coming in for from for the work for this project called Grand Hotels. So I know that this work is going to require 40 hours of work. We know that I want to start her off in the beginning of September, I mean, and I'm going to go ahead and give her the month of September. So you could add in the 22 working days manually, or you could just um, you could enter in the date of the end of September. When you enter in that date, it is going to null that value in working days, and it's going to calculate that by itself. And so that is expected behavior. If you go ahead and do the same thing, you only want it to work 2 weeks, 2 weeks Monday through Friday, then it's going to null that end date and recalculate that when you add that over. And so you could add a percentage if you would like. Right now, I just know I want to give, you could also use the resource assignment wizard and pull in particular roles that you know that might have capacity. So you can look at you can filter down to who might have capacity. You can filter who has certain skill sets, availabilities. Maybe they're out for a week and you want to reassign it to whoever else. Then you can pull that resource assignment wizard and add that person to this and click save as well. When you add it over, you can see the buttons at the bottom. So this information has not been saved yet. You can add it over to the right hand, the central view. So you see that Lexi has been added, but this icon is showing you that it has not been saved yet. So you want to make sure to save that information, or you can save and exit this page. But right now we are seeing the role forecast record for Lexi. She doesn't have a specific skill set, but let's just say this is going to require her project management skills. She's set to work 40 hours a week, 5 days. Her billable target is 80%. The amount of work that we have projected for her is 40 hours this month. We have those forecast values of 40 hours, the same thing, and it adds up. Maybe you want to assign her 10 hours of non-billable work, then you can do that as well to get her to 50 hours and whatnot. The start and end date from the 10 working days is going to calculate accordingly. I know that I actually want to give her the month of September to finish this work, so it's going to recalculate the working days from there. Oh, and if you scroll to the left, you'll see the forecasting notes, and maybe you just want to add in some notes. So this is a new field that has been added to the role forecast as well. You're able to see the category. So this is a custom field that I've added just because I want to categorize what type of work that this is. And so I'm just going to scope this work out for myself. You're able to add custom fields onto the role forecast page here by going to the object manager, and you can click on this field sets and click on manage forecast custom fields. Those custom fields have to be created first, obviously, but once you click on it, then you can find those custom fields like I have here called category, and I've just gone ahead and drag and drop them as I've shown you, and then you can click save. So I've added that to this field set, so you're able to see that field set here. You can look at the billable hourly rate that Lexi is pulling in. So this is on her role record as well, or cost hourly rate, what we are paying her to do this work. We have the financial fields available to us. So you have 40 hours times by her billable hourly rate, 225 is going to give us 9,000. 40 hours times by 150 is going to give us 7,500. You have your profit and loss from this the scoping task here, projected role forecast record here, and then you have your GM percentage of 16%. You also see this trash icon where you can delete if you know that you don't need this role forecast record anymore, then you can go ahead and delete that as well. So I'm gonna just save that information real quick. And we're going to take a look at the filter settings of it's pretty straightforward. But if let's say that you just want to, you have numerous role forecast records and you only want to see all the role forecast records that pertain to Lexi, if that pertain to a specific skill set, or you want to look at role forecast records that start on a particular date or end on a particular date, then you can do so as well. Maybe you only want to look at forecast records in the month of October, and things like that, then you can, do greater than or equal to starting October 1st, and you can click go from there. So when you click go, you'll see that it's just going to pull in Lexi here. Otherwise, you can clear that information out. And it's going to pull up all role forecast records. You're able to see the allocation when you click on the allocation tab. So this is referring to role allocations. And you have Gmin, you have your dev and Lexi here for their skill sets. You have this collapse and expand columns. You have the weeks that you're viewing in. Maybe you want to take a look at a day view instead. So you can go ahead and do that. I know I want to take a look at the 4 or 5 weeks in September, so I'm just going to leave that there. You can take a look at the specific days if you look at the calendar icon and move forward and backwards as you've depicted as well. So out of the 40 hours that you've assigned to Lexi, in this case, you can collapse that and open it up. You have her set for the month of September. Those 40 hours are going to be manually distributed across Monday through Friday, right? For those 4 weeks that we have in September, those 5 weeks, I mean. So it's going to give you those hours each day that's going to evenly distribute. So you'll see that on the day view as well. So let's say you move over and you want to look at Monday through Friday only. It's going to evenly distribute those values. Yep, for the month of September. Oh, we're starting at 35, but so it's going to distribute 40 by 22 working days, and it's going to give you a value that's 1.82. It's expected that, it's going to add that value a little bit slightly differently in the beginning, but it's going to evenly distribute all those working days for the whole month of September for the 22 working days that are available. This is just a month of the calendar, so this will pull in. It's 30 days in September, but it'll show those working days Monday through Friday. You also see the non-billable row as well for the non-billable work that you've assigned her. So in order for her to complete this task on this forecasting work on time, she has to work at least an hour, almost 2 hours every day to complete this on time before the end of the day, right? So this is just forecasting that information. If you click on the gear settings icon and you want to hide that billable work and you want to specify the shading breakpoints, then you can go ahead and do so as well. Once you've saved that, what you've done is you just hid the non-billable role, and you just want to look at the billable information. So that value is going to be 40. Otherwise, it's going to show 50 for Lexi when you add that non-billable work in. So you have your developer Gmin and you have Lexi there. So that's going to show you a role forecast on the project. You can also see this information on the project record. So when we exit out of here and we go to the project in, here we go. You can also create those role forecast records as I've showed you, but it works very similarly. You can use the role forecast functionality on the opportunity to determine the level of effort required, the cost of effort, and provide insight into future capacity demand on the is and then it just goes into the same thing as we shown the financial values that revenue that's projected revenue that's going to come in towards the end as well. So you can create those role forecast records, but we're going to go ahead, and so it's going to work similarly. It's the same functionality. And so we're going to go ahead and show this now on, take a look at creating role forecasts from an opportunity. Let me just exit this page. When you look at your details, so you see those two role forecast records, you can create role forecasts from an opportunity. So that is going to auto-generate from using our auto generation feature. So right now you have two role forecast records and you don't have a project, but let's say you want to transfer and duplicate those role forecast records instead onto the project now. You can go ahead and do that by auto-generating using the auto generation tool and creating the project from the opportunity using that auto generation process. And you want to make sure these fields are added. We have our Cosmo Campfire that shows you how to go ahead and use the various generation methods. The basic one is just opportunity. I've added my template here. I'm going to start from September and I'm going to generate that project now. So there's a couple ways that you can forward and duplicate those forecasting records onto your project. Once you've generated that project, you'll want to take a second and refresh the page. I'm just going to go ahead and click here and refresh this page, and you'll see that this SLA project is now available to us. So you see that that SLA project is available. It's been generated because we've generated that. And when you click into the SLA project, you're able to see those role forecasting records that was also on the opportunity. So this has been added. To the forecasting on our role forecasting features on the opportunity. So you're able to see that already. And then from there, you're able to convert that information into actions. So let's say that you'll see that out of the box, you see that this, let's see, collapse that. You see we have our various milestones and actions already. You have customer support, developer, project manager, things like that, whatnot. From here, if you have those role forecast records, you can create those actions by going on the details page. It's going to be called convert role forecast into actions. So you see that field, convert role forecast into actions. If you don't have this field, you want to make sure to add it onto your page layout for the project page. And then you can click edit. And then those role forecasts are going to be generated as actions now the moment you've converted them. So all you have to do is just click save, click true and click save. It's going to generate those as actions. Obviously, all actions need to have a milestone, so it's going to create those two forecasting records as individual actions on one role forecast milestone. When you click on that, you'll be able to see, now you see that there's a role forecast. Out of the box, it's just going to be named as role forecast milestone. If you wanted to update that and you want to rename it to something else, then you can go ahead and do that on the Mission Control Console page. So if you're on the control pad, there's a setting on the role automation generation tile. You want to scroll down to the settings tile here and the roll forecast conversion. Its default, it's going to be named roll forecast, but maybe you want to rename it something else. You can rename it and click save there. As we've shown already, the resource planner is going to pull all role allocation information. And it's going to be generated, and you have to generate and enable field history tracking for role allocations in order for the data to pull up here. So you want to make sure your auto-generate role allocations is generated every 1 or 5 minutes. Maybe you want to just generate it every 15 minutes. That's up to you. You can see those last scheduled by me. If you have large projects with long periods of time, you can keep the default at 25, or you can go lower to update this to a batch of 5, creating those records, 5 or 10. And then you want to for sure update and auto-generate role allocation records for when time logs get created, how much of their allocation time has been used and things like that. You want to make sure to save that right away, the first save, and not the various save buttons. Obviously, this save button is only going to refer to this. This save button is only going to refer to this, and so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that gets saved in order to generate the data and the role allocations, the resource planner, I mean. So once you are on that, you're able to update that name, however, is when that it's defaulted out of the box is just going to default to role forecast. You can rename it, and then out of the box here, it's going to default to that action owner name. So if you know that so that role forecast record was called Gmin, it's going to name that action as after Gmin and the skill set that they have. If you have a skill tied to that forecast record. Otherwise, it'll just come up to you and then Lexi on run. And so you can update the information. You can, edit that manually, whatsoever. You can go to create actions and update that. So that's how you create role forecasts from an opportunity, and you can determine that information. So I've shown you how to create role forecasts from opportunity. You can create them manually from a project. You can clone the project. You can create them manually on the related list. You can use the manage forecast button, and you can convert role forecasts into actions, as we've shown. Lastly, I want to show the managed distribution. And so this is important because this will also show you um, the the role allocations that get generated from the action. And so when you're looking at the managed distribution, you're able to find this button on a few places. So you can find them on the project page here. You can find them on individual actions. So let's say you're looking at milestones too. You can find them on this button is available on the milestone or the action page. For these page, and you can click on manage distribution. So when you click on manage distribution, you're also able to find this managed distribution, also known as the hours distributor tool on the resource assignment wizard. You're able to find it on the holiday and the role as well. So there's a few places where you could find that information. And in order to generate those role allocations automatically, you can use this tool to generate those role allocations if there are none. You want to make sure that the setting tile in here is obviously enabled. But if you don't have that enabled and you want to turn it off and you want to manually create them, then the best way to manually create them is through the hours distributor. So right now, obviously, you know that we're on the milestone and we're looking at our actions right now. Maybe you just want to take a look at that, collapse that down, or maybe you want to look at it from the roll. And so you can go back and forth on those two tabs. Collapse columns, very similar to the managed forecast. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility and more accessibility to do certain things. So as we take a look at the month, we can see each day available to us. We can expand. Okay, Lexi, she's 40. She has this action that we've assigned to her, 40 hours for the month of September. She has 10 hours of non-billable work, and that's going to 10 hours divided by the 22 working days evenly. It's going to be her. She has to work half, so almost 30 minutes each day in order to complete this action on time, right? So that is how that is going to work for role allocations. You'll also be able to see that the role allocation records on the individual actions themselves. So if you go into those individual actions like Lexi, you can see those role allocations on the related list. If you pull that up, you'll see that, hey, she's working each day, September 1st to the 30th, right, on those working days. And she is set to work about almost 2 hours each day, right? when you're on your action, you want to make sure that certain fields are always filled out in order for role allocations to auto-generate. So if you have this enabled in your control pad setting, and you're auto-generating role allocation records, in order for those role allocation records to be generated and to be pulled up on the resource planner and to pull up even auto-generate here automatically where you don't have to always use the resource plan, the managed distribution, you want to make sure the action owner is always filled out. You want to make sure the start end date is always filled out. And you want to make sure the hours scheduled is filled out. So you don't have to put a value here, or but you want to put it into one of these two fields. Um, so you, at least typically, if it's a billable project, then typically you want to put in the value here. And once you've created and then it takes a minute for, actually it takes every 5 minutes in this case for that to generate. In 5 minutes, you'll see that generate and get auto-populated here. Otherwise, like I've said, you can just go ahead and manually distribute that. When you edit on the manage distribution hours distributor tool, and you're manually allocating, you're saying that Lexi is, we want to put all those 40 hours at the end of the month instead of her scheduling to work out every single day. There's a button called manual allocation. So this manual allocation is going to show you that when this is checked, the role allocation records tied to this action have been manually allocated. And so right now it hasn't been, but if you go to the manual allocation tool and you update that information manually for her, let's say you're gonna zero those hours out, then you're gonna see that once that gets saved, the manual allocation field is gonna be marked true. You can manually allocate and you see new icons be populated. You see the redistributing tool. You can see the clear all. This is going to clear everything out. And then you could also see the warning icon, meaning something has been adjusted. The hours allocated here do not match the hours scheduled here. So you want to make sure you update that information. You can reset that by using the even distribution icon, person icon there. So that's going to reset everything back to 40. It's going to reset all those value hours and redistribute them evenly across the start and end date of the action. And then same thing for non-billable fields if you've manually entered those values. Maybe you just want to, zero that out and uh, set that to, those 5 hours here, whatever that looks like. But, obviously I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to evenly distribute that information, clear that out. So you can save that. This redistribute, let's hover over the field so you can read that. Redistribute remaining hours where the role actuals do not match the allocation. So let's say as of today, we know that Lexi has not done any work on this project, and we know that she's been assigned work, at the beginning of the month, but that month, those days have already passed. So what I'm going to do is use this button. And when you use it on this button, it's only going to pull it in for Lexi. Let's say you had G-Men and other roles. This button is only going to be used for this role only, right? The billable role. If you want to do it for all roles, then you can use this icon up here. It does the same thing, but does it for everyone in this tool page. And so this redistribute remaining icons is going to tell you that when you click on this, it's going to zero everything out because as of today, it is September 23rd. As of September 23rd, no hours have been completed. Hence, no time has been logged. Hence, no time role actuals have been generated. If role actuals were generated and time logs were logged, let's say last Friday, she worked 10 hours on her time log, it's going to show 10 hours here. So it's going to take 40, divide it and minus 10, and it's going to give her 10 hours here from her role actual record. And then it's going to say, it's going to divide those remaining 30 hours and divide it by the remaining days left up until the end of the start end date. So it's going to give you those remaining days here. So in this case, the last 7 days. So it's going to divide those remaining 30 hours if you have time logged already, like those 10 hours already, then it's going to divide those 30 hours by those remaining days on this action. In this case, she does not have any time logs, so it's going to divide 40 by the remaining 7 days available. So that redistribute remaining icon is going to show you, hey, she hasn't done any work yet, so let's redistribute all the remaining hours as of today, as of today's date, right? And when you go ahead and you want to see you want to update those records as such, and let's say we want to do that on the non-billable as well, and you click save, this is going to save the information for you, but once you click close, you'll notice right away that that has been manually allocated. So those are the two ways that manual allocation will trigger. Obviously, because this is also on the control pad setting, which is called automatically redistribute remaining hours. So if you don't want to do that on a manual basis, then you can enable that feature setting. And it's gonna every day is gonna update this at 8 o'clock, right? So it's gonna manually allocate those actions, and it's gonna show that this has been manually allocated. So either somebody went in and zeroed out and put in particular values, or they use that redistribute remaining feature icon. Um, so that is how the managed distribution tool works. I want to make sure I give time for questions too. That should have, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. There's a new feature called delete role allocations. So let's say this action is going to be reassigned to somebody completely new, and you're gonna change the hours scheduled. You're gonna change, basically everything on this action. You want to make sure to delete those role allocations, and you can always regenerate them using the control pad setting. So the managed distribution is only going to pull up role allocation information, but if you have time logs, then you want to make sure to regenerate historical data, which is going to regenerate those role allocations and the role actual records for already previously created, actions, time logs, and holidays. The delete role allocation records is going to delete all role allocations related to this action or project or whatever page you're on, because this button is also available on milestone projects and whatnot as well. And then you can manually update the once you've deleted everything, you can manually update those fields. Maybe you want to reassign it to somebody new. Maybe you want to update the start and dates, whatever that's going to look like. So you can use that tool where needed, and then you can obviously go back and regenerate that when if you've used that tool after you've updated these fields. Another feature I wanted to highlight was also um, a button called Do Not Generate Role Actuals or Role Allocations. So that is found on the project page. So if you know that your project doesn't need any role allocations whatsoever, or then you can find that button by adding this button called Do Not Generate Role Allocation or Role Actual Records. So when this is true, no role allocations or role actuals will be created for time logs or actions. So if you have this enabled and you know that you have an internal non-billable project and it doesn't need any role allocations, maybe it's a template, or maybe it's just a non-billable internal admin project that doesn't need this information, you can mark this as true. So no role allocations are going to be generated for this project at all. That means when you find that project and you lower that information here and you see that Janaya is set to work on this project here, and it might show as 0 hours because it might be because that project says do not generate any role actuals or role allocations. So I wanted you to be aware of those new allocation features, and how that gets pulled up into this view of the resource planner. So the resource planner is great because it pulls in all that information from the holidays, from the actions, from the role forecast, and you're able to see the capacity. You're able to see how much work they're assigned per week or per month, and you could reassign those wherever needed, and use various other tools to that as well. To continue here, and feel free to email all questions to support@aprika.com, or you find our user guide, our training videos, knowledge base articles on our various features like our management tools or our resource planner. You can also look at our learning portal, which goes deep dive into each of these features and resources as well, and how do we manage resource capacity, and take a look at our new release notes. Um, as of this as of this weekend, we will be going ahead and updating our all production orgs to our latest major release. So right now we are 1.75 mission control, and now the next version is going to be 1.78. So you can find those new major release notes on our release notes page on our website, and that will be updated on the weekend this weekend. So make sure to take a look at that before um, your org gets updated as well. Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. And thank you so much for joining our Cosmo Campfire.